Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, was destined for greatness. However, his path to fulfilling his full potential was fraught with obstacles and challenges. Despite being a skilled Jedi Knight, Anakin struggled with his emotions, which ultimately led to his downfall. When he becomes Darth Vader, he is a feared tyrant across the entire galaxy, but he is nowhere near his full potential in the Force. After the events of Mustafar, most of his Force abilities had been completely reduced in power and effect. But what if things had turned out differently? What if Anakin had overcome his inner turmoil and reached his full potential as the greatest Jedi to ever live? For Anakin to reach his full potential in the Force, there are a few things that must occur. Anakin's duel against Count Dooku on Geonosis must be altered to allow Anakin to maintain all of his limbs. Instead of Anakin having his entire arm removed from his socket, Anakin was able to defend against that strike from Dooku's blade and continue to press his attacks. In the heat of the duel, Dooku still finds an opening and expels lightning at Anakin, causing him to hit the wall and become unconscious. The rest of the duel would follow suit. Yoda would show up and place enough pressure on Dooku to cause him to flee and leave the planet. But now, Anakin never lost his arm. The year is 19 BBY, and the Clone Wars are in full swing. Anakin Skywalker has become one of the most important figures in the war effort. His skills on the battlefield are unmatched, and his strategic mind has saved countless lives. However, Anakin is still haunted by the loss of his mother and the fear of losing the ones that he loves. He seeks guidance from his former master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who encourages him to meditate and focus on the present. Anakin takes Obi-Wan's advice and begins to delve deeper into the Force. He spends hours meditating, contemplating the nature of the universe and his place within it. He also seeks out advice from other Jedi Masters, including Yoda and Mace Windu, who recognize his potential and offer guidance. Through their teaching, Anakin learns to control his emotions and channel his passion into his actions. As the war rages on, Anakin's reputation as a skilled warrior spreads throughout the galaxy. He leads daring missions and defeats the enemy with ease. However, he has also become aware of the corruption and darkness that exists within the Republic. He sees the hypocrisy and dogma that has stifled the growth of the Jedi, and he vows to change it. Anakin begins to question the teachings of the Jedi Order and seeks a deeper understanding of the Force. Yoda brings Anakin ancient Jedi texts that are usually only given to Jedi Masters. But Yoda feels that because Anakin is the Chosen One, he should have the right to view as much knowledge as he can in order to better prepare himself to fulfill his prophecy. The texts show him truths about the Force and how to manipulate it in unique ways. Through his vast studies, Anakin discovers the true nature of the Force, when he realizes it is neither light nor dark, but a balance between the two. Anakin is specifically interested in the tales written by the Jedi of the past. He realizes that the current day Jedi are far different to the Jedi of old. The current Jedi blindly follow the Senate and do not fight for the safety of the people, whereas the Jedi of old were more like Qui-Gon. They followed the will of the living Force and sacrificed everything for the protection of the galaxy. A combination of light and dark energy, which when used together will generate power unlike any other. Anakin's newfound understanding of the Force allows him to connect with the universe on a level never seen by any other Jedi. He can sense the emotions and intentions of those around him, and he can communicate with the Force itself. His powers grow exponentially, and he becomes the most powerful Jedi to ever live. Anakin realizes that the Council's teachings are wrong, and the things that Qui-Gon preached were actually correct. Through his teachings from the ancient Jedi texts, Anakin learns the true nature of the Jedi, and not the corrupt, dogmatic views that the current day Jedi hold. He makes it his mission to spread his newfound knowledge to the rest of the Order, and begin their path back to true freedom in the galaxy. Anakin was now walking the path of the Force. He listened to the Force and let it guide him however it could. As Anakin's power grows, so too does his influence within the Jedi Order. He challenges the dogma and traditions of the Jedi, advocating for a more flexible and adaptable approach to the Force. This hadn't been done in generations, and the reception from some Jedi was not positive, especially in the middle of a galactic war like the Clone Wars. Anakin preaches that changing their ways could help them discover who's behind the war. He heavily pushed his agenda and motives, explaining that some Jedi teachings and practices must be altered, otherwise the Order will fall. He also speaks out against the corruption and bureaucracy that has crept into the Order, calling for the return of the principles of the ancient Jedi. Anakin's ideas are met with resistance by some of the more traditional Jedi, but his charisma and persuasiveness win over many of his peers. Anakin is granted the rank of Master during the 3rd year of the Clone Wars for his wisdom and ideas that he offered during the time of warfare. Many inside the Jedi Temple begin to look to him for guidance and inspiration. Countless Jedi agreed with Anakin and knew that aligning their beliefs with the will of the Force is what will bring peace and balance. Anakin started to build a following within the Order and attempted to use this to change the Council's perspective. With Anakin's leadership, the Jedi Order undergoes a renaissance. They adapt to the changing galaxy and become more involved in the affairs of the people they have sworn to protect. Anakin demonstrates his beliefs whilst on some missions in the Clone Wars. The Council and Senate would inform him how he should act, but his strong nature caused him to follow the Force instead. Over the course of the war, this led him to winning countless battles as the poster boy for the Jedi Order. They root out corruption and work to build a better future for all beings in the galaxy. But the Jedi and Republic still needed to win the war. Anakin focused his attention only on this. Palpatine realizes Anakin's growth in the Force and fears that his masterful plan has gone to ruins. He must rethink what he is doing. How can he turn Anakin to the dark side? He is the key to everything. Palpatine understands that the motivator of fear isn't enough, which means the dreams of Padme won't do anything. Instead, he must instill anger and hatred. Enough anger and hatred that will cause him to explode and become the darkest Jedi the galaxy has ever seen. His answer was Padme. Palpatine journeys to her apartment to pay her a visit. When he enters, she greets him warmly, like an old friend. Sheev motions himself over towards Padme and gives the impression he is going to hug her. But instead, he ignites his crimson blade as it tears through her chest. She gasps and screams as the giant hole forms within her chest. Padme falls to the floor dead. Anakin discovers her body when he returns home that night. He enters a fit of rage. He screams at the top of his lungs as objects in the apartment begin getting thrown around. He conjures the largest and most powerful Force scream that has ever been produced. Its radius is so far that people in the Jedi Temple miles away could feel its effects. Anakin bends down and touches the wound. He concentrates as he must find the perpetrator. As Anakin closes his eyes, he is suddenly thrusted into a room that is full of blur. He has no idea where he is until things around him begin to make sense again. He is still in his apartment, yet Padme is here too. She is alive, he thought to himself. But then he realizes that he wasn't actually there. He turns around to see the Chancellor enter. Is this a flashback, he thought to himself? Perhaps he has just unlocked the ability of Force psychometry. But as he thinks that, Palpatine murders his wife and leaves her corpse lying on the cold floor. Anakin regains conscious as hatred fills his mind. The Chancellor. He must find him. Anakin goes straight to the Jedi Council and tells them what happened. Palpatine is the Sith Lord they have been looking for. They must act immediately. Anakin uses his immense Force power to locate his wife's murderer. Through Anakin briefly tapping into the dark side, his powers reach new heights. Heights that would not be possible without his experimentation of the Force. The Force requires balance, and because he didn't just focus on the light and allowed the darkness to creep in, Anakin became even stronger. His powers had grown so strong that him simply sensing Palpatine could provide him with a location. The hangar bay on Coruscant, a place that Palpatine is accustomed to visit a lot. His strength is truly unstoppable. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Yoda, and Ki-Adi-Mundi all travel to the hangar. Upon arrival, they find Palpatine meditating and waiting for them. As he opens his eyes and looks towards the extremely powerful masters approaching him, he smirks. Behind him, General Grievous reveals himself and begins to cough in the face of the light. Anakin is enraged, yet has a sense of self-control and doesn't feel like it is time for talk. He ignites his blue lightsaber and leaps into battle. The Jedi follow him as they attempt to end the Darksider's grip over the galaxy. The battle commences with Ki-Adi-Mundi's immediate death from the hands of Palpatine. This causes Anakin to scream to the other Jedi that Palpatine is his, and they need to kill Grievous. But Grievous ignited all 4 of his lightsabers and wouldn't be that easy to kill. He locks blade with Obi-Wan and swings the mace. At all times, his 4 lightsabers are put to work, trying to find an opening in the Jedi's defenses. Yoda leapt from all 4 corners of the room and tried to successfully kill Grievous. But when the Jedi all lock blades with Grievous at once, the droid still has one free hand remaining and stabs Obi-Wan through the chest, causing him to fall to the floor. Windu couldn't believe it. Grievous was surely not this powerful. He presses his attacks and finally finds an opening where he kills General Grievous. After Grievous fell from Windu's blade, all attention was focused on Anakin and Palpatine. Palpatine thought that his power could rival the Chosen One and even give him a chance at victory. But Anakin's power is so unbelievably greater than anyone else in the room. Out of nowhere, he raises his hands and shoots red lightning to all corners of the room. Palpatine could not have predicted this level of power as he is shot backwards. He snarls as he gets back to his feet, laughing and screaming as he re-engages in combat and attempts to end Anakin's life. But his attempt is futile. Everything he does is. There is no way that Palpatine can conjure enough power to defeat Anakin. His strength had grown far too powerful. He is the Chosen One. Anakin's lightning returned as he hit Palpatine in the head again, and he began stumbling on his feet. Palpatine was unable to defend himself, and he was killed by Anakin's incredible power. Anakin looked over at Yoda and Mace Windu, the only 2 Jedi to still be alive in the room. They both appeared to be in mourning and couldn't believe the sight of death that was in front of them. Obi-Wan was extremely close to all of them, and now he is gone. Anakin closes his eyes and raised his arms. He began to breathe slowly. Suddenly, the wounds on the Jedi began to disappear. Miraculously, Obi-Wan and Ki-Adi-Mundi were brought back to life. Anakin had finally discovered the secrets to immortality. The power granted to him from the Force was unmatched. No one could ever combat this level of strength. Anakin's best friend had returned. He gave Obi-Wan a hug and expressed his immense gratitude for his teachings that allowed him to defeat Palpatine. This was an emotional moment between master and apprentice. Anakin goes into the medical bay where Padme was being kept. He places his hand over her as she is brought back to life as well. He had become the living embodiment of a god, a being that has control over all life and death in the galaxy. He has reached his full potential in the Force, and he will use his power for good. As the war comes to a close, Anakin's legacy is secured. He has not only brought balance to the Force, but also ushered in a new era for the Jedi Order. With the defeat of Palpatine comes changes to the Jedi Order. They separated themselves from the Senate and began to focus on the Force itself instead of aligning their beliefs with politics. This allowed the Jedi to better protect the Republic and uncover new studies and truths about the Force. They have reverted back to their old ways, the ways of the Jedi that allowed them to triumph over the Sith time and time again. With this unparalleled power and understanding of the Force, Anakin becomes a symbol of hope for all those who seek to live in peace and harmony. Eventually, Yoda would die from old age and would be succeeded by Anakin as Grand Master of the Jedi Order, a title that allowed him to complete his mission of returning the Jedi back to its old ways. Anakin's children were welcomed into the Jedi Order when they were old enough. He taught them himself in order to best reveal their unlimited potential. One day after he transcended into the netherworld of the Force, they would take his place, so they needed to be eloquently equipped. Anakin and Padme would grow old together, living a life that they loved. Obi-Wan would often see his children and help them whichever way he could. The older Luke and Leia became, the closer they were to Obi-Wan and even Ahsoka. Ahsoka particularly got on well with Leia, as their personalities overlapped a lot. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka became like family to the Skywalkers, and their bond was unbreakable. Anakin had secured peace for his family and the galaxy. The secured peace in the galaxy meant that the Sith had no chance of ever returning again. Through Anakin Skywalker unlocking his full potential in the Force, he discovered new powers, strength, and wisdom that allowed him to save the galaxy from evil and propel the Republic into an era of peace and prosperity that would last a millennia.